Ladies and gentlemen, very, very special guest with us. Our brother has relocated to the West Coast. We miss him here in New York City, but he's still doing great, great work and probably some of his most important work because he's now out on the front lines. He's doing a great deal of writing, always has been a prolific writer, but we need him now more than ever. And so we're thankful to have with us at this hour from MTV News and Esquire and elsewhere, as a matter of fact, Brother Jamil Smith. Jamil, how are you, my man?
Doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us. I want to key in on your piece on Esquire just a few days ago. How did the headline, how did contemporary American politics become so violent? And of course, you open with what happened to LeBron out there where you are in LA. First of all, were you cool with how the finals turned out? Were you for Golden State or Cleveland? Let me ask you.
I'm born and raised in the city of Cleveland, so no, I was not fine. But that's fine. That's fine. That's you know, we have the memories from last year. I got a chance to attend a parade in downtown Cleveland with my father, and you know, we can't trade those memories for anything. So we hope that they go give them hell next year.
Well, you know, one of the other things too, Jamil, I must say, and I was saying it on the show yesterday, that in spite of it all, it's good to see, you know, the diversity of brothers getting an opportunity. Kevin finally got a ring with all the haters that were around him. But the other thing that's important, and I'm glad you talked about it being from Cleveland, 20 years ago, the NBA and the major market television networks would not have tolerated a finals between Golden State and Cleveland. They would have been considered markets too small. Right. So it says a lot still to me that we've gotten to the point where Cleveland is literally on the map, and people are interested and involved in the finals right there in Cleveland. And then Lord knows Golden State, where were they 20, 30 years ago? Right. So to me, that's sort of a consolation. I know it's not the best consolation for you, brother, but it's something.
No, it's all right. As I told my friends back home, this doesn't even make the deleted scenes of Cleveland sports heartbreak. So I'm not really, you know, I'm fine with how it turned out. They were a better team this year, and you know, congratulations to them. But at the same time, I agree with you. I think that it's important that you have smaller markets be competitive in sports leagues, because frankly, it's just good business sense for the leagues to have make sure that every single team has a shot at the championship. That's what every fan wants, and that's what every league should be working towards.
And that keeps it interesting. It keeps everybody involved. The only team I like to see win every single year if possible is my Yankees. But other than that, I want but it's all good, brother. So LeBron, of course, as you mentioned in your piece, and as we covered, had the N-word painted across his front gate. That's kind of the climate that exists now. And frankly, I have given credit for that climate to Trump himself, Jamil. Would you agree in his campaign? Would you agree?
I would say yes. I'd say the Trump campaign was an accelerant for this. But certainly the key question that, you know, is, of course, as you said, how did our contemporary politics become so violent? And the answer is not by accident. Okay, we need to make sure that we understand that Republicans are behind this, largely because, frankly, they don't have a governing philosophy that has been, you know, viable. They've tried all of their ideas. They've tried them in the Reagan era. They've tried them during the Bush presidencies, plural. And we've seen that they don't work. So what do they have to do? They have to gerrymander, so to make sure that, you know, the voting rights of certain communities are lessened or even taken away. They have to make sure that felons don't have the right to vote. They have to make sure that all these different constituencies that are most likely going to vote Democratic are somehow marginalized or eliminated. And now they've gotten to the point where violence, encouraging violence and participating in violence is now a part of their strategy. And so, you know, we need more, as I said in the piece, we need more from Republicans than sound bites when this stuff happens. So I don't need their regret. I don't need their prayers. I don't need their apologies. We saw Greg Gianforte, the Montana congressman, now congressman elect, apologizing to Ben Jacobs, the Guardian reporter, who he grabbed by the throat and slammed into the ground, breaking his glasses and injuring him. All because Ben did his job and asked a question about a particular topic that Gianforte had promised to comment on. So this is the standard now. That we're seeing. And you know what Gianforte did? He raised a lot of money off of that incident, and initially smeared Ben and saying that he initiated the conflict or what have you. So all the apologies are not worth anything. I know he's donating $50,000 to a press organization, but if you can spend $50,000 to a press organization and then you can get $100,000 in donations for your campaign, I mean, isn't that a smart trade-off?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And his rhetoric, Trump's rhetoric throughout the campaign, the violence that was displayed. I don't think that's coincidental either. Do you? I think this is the atmosphere they want to create.
Oh, certainly. I mean, the first things first, let's take a measure of who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump fundamentally is a bully. Donald Trump fundamentally is somebody who is used to getting what he wants and is not used to having consequences when he doesn't get what he wants. And so he's not really interested in hearing explanations or hearing an alternative point of view. He's used to getting his way all of the time. And that goes with women, that goes in business, and that now goes in politics. And so what he's finding is that, in politics, if you got to bully somebody, if you got to encourage your crowd to intimidate and to beat protesters at your events, if you make it ensure that the white supremacists out here, including the terrorists that are out here, get the green light and say, hey guys, everything's going to be fine. That political correctness, it's over with. Go and do your thing. Let your freak flag fly. I'm at a point where what do you do? What do you do as a citizen when you have a president that has actively sought to encourage violence against your community? Yeah. And I mean, all this rhetoric about stopping violence in Chicago and all this, what he's talking about doing is sending in, martial law, essentially. So, declaring martial law and talking about sending in, the National Guard, military, what have you. The last thing we need to have is more militarized law enforcement in our communities. That is not going to stop the violence. This is an administration that has clearly shown no interest whatsoever in trying to ameliorate the problems that are actually afflicting our communities. In fact, they're actually trying to make them worse. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. Jamil Smith with us, folks, of MTV and also Esquire. Folks, I encourage you, by the way, to read his piece at Esquire.com. Headline: How did contemporary American politics become so violent? It doesn't help either when people who are supposed to be our friends commit the acts that happened to LeBron James. Jamil, if you weighed in, I missed it, but what are your thoughts about what Bill Maher did and his use of the N-word?
Here's the thing. The last thing we need to be worried about is whether or not Bill Maher is a racist. That's a question that doesn't really concern me. It's a question that is something that, frankly, probably Bill Maher himself only knows. The thing is, he felt comfortable enough to not only use that word on a live television show, but to use it as a punchline, to use the concept of a house Negro as something to laugh at and something for white audiences primarily to laugh at. And that, that instinct is what worries me. You know what I mean? That the instinct that says, okay, you know what? It's going to be okay for me to make this joke because I'm going to have a lot of my friends, white and black, in politics, in the media, what have you, cape for me and say that, oh, he's not a racist. Oh, he was just being silly. He was just being stupid. Well, listen, stupid or not, the point is that is not acceptable. And I did not watch the program in which Dr. Dyson and Ice Cube apparently gave him the business about it. And he deserved it. Yeah. But I would love to know exactly what he was thinking in that moment and just get an idea. I don't need an apology. Again, I don't need an apology for Bill Maher. I need an explanation as to why he felt so comfortable with those particular words escaping his lips. I'd like to know that.
You mean one of the things that Ice Cube talked about, how it was a word used for hate against us, but we have reclaimed it. In his words, he said, it's our word now and you can't have it back. I'm curious, as just brother to brother, how do you feel about that? Because we do use it with each other.
Yes,
we use it within our own community. Now, one of the things I said last week to some of the listeners who couldn't understand it, I said, white kids, white teenagers call each other the N-word. It's become a term of like, that's my boy. Latino teenagers do it. And I gave another example. Women who are girlfriends, women on women, they use the B word.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you and I can't walk around and call those women the B word. They can only use it amongst themselves. It would be offensive if we did.
Consequences. And this is the key.
Right.
This is the key. You can say it however much you want. Say it. Go for it. Come up to my face. Call me a nigga. That's fine. If you want to do that, it's a free country. But just understand that there are consequences to that. Yeah. There are consequences to using that word. And you need to accept the consequences and understand why there are consequences, what the historical root of what you're doing is. So look, I'm not recommending that people do this, but just look, no one's trying to outlaw a particular word. No one's trying to say that, I think that the notion of reclaiming it, I think certainly, it's one way of looking at it. I certainly say that, people can use a word in a pejorative fashion that's within their communities that certainly the other communities probably shouldn't use. I think that's fine to have that particular double standard. I don't think all double standards are fine, but I think that one's okay. This one, the key question again is about consequences. Yeah. Is Bill Maher or anyone else who's willing to use that word okay with, there being a price for it?
Yeah. Well, just to kind of tie this up even in your piece, and every now and then I'll hear from a caller who maybe is smarter than me. And a young woman called and said something to Jamil. I want to share this with you because I think it gives us some food for thought. She talked about, of course, the history in our community, how we've used it, how we've reclaimed it, how it's pejorative. It's sometimes with one another, but not with others. Mm-hmm. And I think in this era of Trump, she made a good point. She asked me, she said, Mark, under the circumstances with this, white supremacy coming back into vogue, maybe the use of this word, even between us, has become unmanageable because they are trying to get it back. And maybe we should reconsider and revisit whether or not it is even useful to us anymore. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't really asking me a question, but it was something, I think to think about. So here, within the span of less than a week, we see nooses at the Smithsonian Museum. We see the N-word sprawled across LeBron's home. And then Bill Maher says it. And again, I'm not convinced Bill Maher is a racist. Frankly, Jamil, I think we're not fair as Black people. If we start scrutinizing him, we're late because our Muslim sisters and brothers have been trying to tell us for some time about some of Bill's contradictions. So we should have been with them in the first place. Don't jump on the bandwagon now. But when this young lady asked the question, if they're hell bent on bringing us back to where things were when that word was absolutely a pejorative and exclusively used by them, maybe we need to reconsider our own use, or at least begin to have some kind of a conversation about that. What do you think?
I mean, I think like any part of any word that is profane, we should make sure that we examine our use of it. I mean, certainly it's not. I consider it to be profanity, just like any other particular word, S, D, F, whatever. I would only use that word in particular company. And when I knew that the consequences of using that word, including not just, I might upset somebody, but also encouraging others to use it who shouldn't be using it.
Right.
I never go into a whole group of white folks and use that word.
Of course,
I generally only use it when I'm yelling at a basketball game or or I'm in mixed company, maybe at a barbecue, what have you. Maybe not even then. The point is that you think about it. If you think about it as profanity, then I think it gives a different context to it, and people understand it as a word that you use only, at particular moments. And I don't necessarily think it has. I think if we stop saying the word, I don't think it's going to matter one bit. to all the people who are out here planning to bomb us, waving their Confederate flags, standing up for Confederate memorials, all these people who have been encouraged by Donald Trump and the Republican Party to, let their feelings be known.
Right.
We stop doing anything. I don't think it matters what we stop doing. Okay, every murder in Chicago could stop. Okay, every murder could stop, and they'll still think that. We had a black man as president of the United States for 8 years. Okay, we need to stop with thinking about the respectability politics, thinking that that's going to solve anything or ameliorate any of these kinds of problems, because frankly, they don't care if we're wearing a suit or we're wearing a hoodie. Okay, we are, N-words.
N-word. Jamil Smith with us, folks, at MTV and Esquire. You acknowledge in your piece Kathy Griffin, another celebrity. She got in trouble. She lost her job at CNN. Whatever people's opinion is on that, I mean, we've seen violence encouraged by Trump, some of his supporters, Ted Nugent and others. He bragged about being able to go across Fifth Avenue, Jamil, and shoot somebody, get away with it. There's not the same scrutiny. His supporters don't lose their jobs for saying these types of things. I mean, I'm not condoning what Kathy did, but in the context of other things, his supporters calling for Obama's lynching. He himself suggested that the NRA help him out with Hillary Clinton, maybe take her out. So I think your piece is prescient in terms of the violence that they are encouraging and creating. But there seem to be no consequences for them, including Gian Forte.
Yeah, I mean, just regards to Kathy Griffin, I didn't really see the point of what she was doing. I understand that, she's a comedian. I've seen her stuff. I just think it was a moment for us to examine just exactly how comics, kind of move past their time or not fit for a particular time. I'm not really sure exactly who died and told her to be Robert Mapplethorpe. You know what I mean? I'm not actually sure why she felt the need to, express herself in that particular way. I just think it was a bad a bad distraction, I could say. It was pretty reprehensible. I just don't think that that's something that you would expect would be okay for Republicans to do, for a president that she supported. So that said, we've had a lot of controversy about art and politics lately. We have the Julius Caesar hubbub and Shakespeare in the Park, and people being upset about a Trump-themed staging of Julius Caesar. That kind of stuff is ridiculous. Frankly, people need to understand that art is inherently political. And where Kathy Griffin may have gone wrong is that she didn't really have a message beyond violence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only message in that piece is, I want Donald Trump dead. And that is not something that, frankly, I think should be in our discourse. As much as we may oppose the man politically and certainly worry about what he's doing to the country, wishing for his death is not exactly part of the equation. There was, that if your art is not communicating anything beyond violence, then what is the point of it? Now, Julius Caesar, of course, does not communicate simply, hey, let's kill the head of state. It's about the consequences of killing that head of state, and also how it's not actually the smartest idea for you. It's a warning to liberals in this age to stage Julius Caesar with Trump as the lead. Okay. And if people don't understand that, Bank of America and Delta and whatever other corporations that are pulling out of this show don't understand that, then perhaps they should pick up a copy of the play. I just think that people need to understand that politics and art will always go hand in hand, and that we cannot be scared of that. And that every person, every voter, every person, every child even needs to approach art, especially in this age, with a critical eye, and need to make sure that they view it in a nuanced fashion, certainly more nuanced than these corporations are.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Bottom line, Jamil Smith with us, folks. In closing, you make a very strong case. As you stated earlier, just to reiterate, it's incumbent upon Republican leadership to denounce violence. We saw what happened with the reporter. All of us under those circumstances in a journalistic environment are at risk under those circumstances. Trump didn't even denounce the dude, I don't think, as far as I know. In fact, he congratulated him. Yeah. So I think your call for them, the Republican leadership, to say this is intolerable is something that has to happen. I would agree.
Yeah, I think that we need to pay, as much as we pay attention to what Trump and the Republicans say, we need to pay attention also to what they don't say and what they don't show us. We have now Senate Republicans trying to pass a health care bill, Obamacare replacement, under the, lock and key, essentially. We're behind closed doors. They're not revealing the bill to Americans before they send it to the Congressional Budget Office for scoring and before they vote on it. We don't know what's in the bill that's going to remake a sixth of the American economy. And now they're talking about banning reporters from doing filmed interviews in the Senate hallways. These are the signs of authoritarianism right here. They are obvious, and they're right here in front of us. We have a president who, even if he is innocent, even if he had nothing to do with Russia whatsoever, is not speaking up or doing one single thing to stop another country from having that kind of influence on our elections again. And you know why? Because the Republican Party has been having that kind of influence on our election for decades now. Yeah. And so they don't mind when somebody else messes with their elections, especially when it helps them win. And that should outrage every American as much as anything Donald Trump says or does. It's what he's not doing that we need to pay attention to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Esquire.com, how did contemporary American politics become so violent? With my very special guest, Jamil Smith, joining us via Google Hangouts. Jamil, my brother, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Good to see you. Miss you, man. Hopefully I can join you out there one of these days. I'm trying to get out there. It's beautiful. I love it. Sirius XM. I've told Sirius XM didn't want me to come out there. They want me to stay here in New York. I'm like, oh my God. But eventually I'll make it. So enjoy yourself, man. And let's do this more often if we could, okay?
I love that. I love that. Thank you very much.
All right, Jamil Smith, folks. And follow him on Twitter, folks, as well, at Jamil Smith. Thank you, my brother. All right.
Indeed.